to the show. This is the Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. Let's get on with the show with the news, the views, and reviews. Making news this time around is the backlash for the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer at the Super Bowl is extremely high at the moment, especially among Star Wars hardcore fans. That's what's really making news. When it comes to more news, Starfighter, no news is good news, which is, way it should be at the moment, the way the backlash really intensifies at certain times. Also, there is other sort of partial news online. If you look it up, Marsha Lucas, who was, I think, the girlfriend and or wife of George Lucas back in the 70s when they were piecing the original Star Wars film together, which was A New Hope Episode 4. She edited that particular film. She's had a partial interview that you can find online. It's sort of interesting to sort of get her perspective of certain things that are happening now. Check that out. She's pretty vocal about certain things, especially with the sequel trilogy and even The Mandalorian and Grogu. Anyway, so that is what's making news this time around. Let's get into the views. Views is my story idea where I give you with something with Star Wars, and I'm going to talk about a story idea it's again in my books. I'm always giving you unusual perspectives of story ideas. It doesn't always have to come in the form of a story, but a story connected way of telling Star Wars. We've had the Mandalorian and Grogu teaser trailer at the Super Bowl, which is being, sort of crucified at the moment in a larger than more likable way. There is people out there that like it. There's people that dislike it. But I would really be putting out an actual full-length trailer, if they've got one in the works right now, to sort of dampen that fire spreading and also just to give an idea to this movie. The story, we need a story, idea, and this is a story idea segment of what are we going to look forward to in this Mandalorian and Grogu. We sort of roughly know what they're about now as Star Wars fans, and if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's essentially the journey between the guy in the mask, which is the Mandalorian, and the little guy with green guy, which is Grogu or Baby Yoda, what do you want to ever say, in their sort of fatherly son or daughter, maybe, I don't know. There's no sex being told about what Grogu is. But yeah, so the sort of the parent, the father and child, let's say, is a generalized term, relationship in a journey. And that's all we know. We need sort of something to go into this film coming up, a story idea. So that's my story idea, is to have a story idea with this Mandalorian Grogu. They need to really get another trailer out there, quick, smart, and really convincing somehow. That's what I think. That's my story idea this time around. Let's get into the reviews. Reviews this time around is going to be something that is obviously Star Wars connected, but this is another what do you call it? Pop figure here. Here's a pop figure. This one though, this is of Chewbacca in I think it was the Rise of Skywalker series. Chewbacca, but this one is a flocked, and I did say the word flocked version, meaning it's got a very slight velvety touch finish to the actual character. You sort of can see it there, but that there, and look, he's even got the goggles on. So this is Chewbacca, a variation of it being flocked gives it a sort of something different, especially with the Funko Pop world. And this one, I'm going to give this, a 7 out of 10. It's good. I'm not, it's just, it is what it is. But 7 out of 10 for Chewbacca, I think, from The Rise of Skywalker, which is episode 9. It's got the glasses, the goggles on, and it's got that flocked finish, which is a very light velvet finish. Anyway, so that is the review for this time around. Now, let's get into the interviews. Interviews is usually the comments that I'm getting on my YouTube channel from the last particular video. So if you're going to send in a comment on my last video, which will now be this video, send your comments or questions or whatever you like, deemed appropriate for the channel. I'll express them. So let's get right. Before I get right into it, actually, I should just say that about my opinion on the Backlash with the Mandalorian and Grogu teaser spot trailer at Super Bowl. I personally don't think it is that bad. I don't think it deserves the backlash it's getting. At the same time, everyone has their opinion. But I just think it was just, if there's any part to it that is needing work, is it just needed to give us more of what is actually happening. It was just too simple. I thought in a certain way that it does simulate sort of like a beer commercial, which I think sort of is the whole intention, it being on the Super Bowl, as everyone would have been drinking beer or some sort of beverage at that time. So it sort of gives, the attention to it, and then it sort of discovers Grogu. I think there's a little bit of humor there. I think it's just, it's simple, straightforward, but it's a bit too simple. Anyway, so that's my quick, 2 cents on something. Anyway, let's get into the questions. And Michael from Werribee South, who loves this show, is back on it again. Okay, so let's have a look. Character transitions. Was the live action portrayal of Ahsoka Tano, played by Rosario Dawson, a successful evolution, or did she lose the spark of her animated Rebel or Clone Wars counterpart? Well, I'll say I thought Rosario Dawson did an absolute excellent job. She is great. The transition worked, in my opinion. But I will also say that the storyline of the animated version of Ahsoka Tano has been better because there's been significant things happen. Maybe in season 2 of the live action version of Ahsoka Tano, which is Rosario Dawson, gives us some more juicy story points. But I think the transition is great. It's fantastic. Anyway, and the actress herself, love her. Great. Outside of Star Wars. So the next question, which is from Michael from Werribee South, is TV versus movies. Do modern live action shows feel like an imitation or a forced investment compared to the event feel of the original or sequel trilogies? And you also got to include the prequel. Look, there is a TV sort of aspect, sort of feel to the, obviously, TV series, and there's the movies which are more epic. Obviously, the money spent in a TV show versus a movie is going to be different. I think Star Wars is about being epic. Getting closer into the storyline rather than being epic in the TV series is good. It's just a particular angle. I just think you just take it for what it is. If you're watching a TV show, that's going to be a TV show. It's going to be a bit more, less epic, more about the inner sort of sanction of a story. And if you're going to be having it on the big screen, you really want the whole wide angle feel to the epic sort of feel of any movie, especially Star Wars. Anyway, I think each is for their own. If you're watching TV, you watch the TV series. If you're watching movies, watch the movie sort of feel, and that's it. To the next question coming from Michael from Werribee South. Canon consistency. Should Star Wars stick to one official rigid canon, or would it benefit from what if style alternative universe stories? The what if style is a sort of series that is come from Disney Plus of what if this, what if that, especially with Marvel and stuff like that. And it's sort of interesting to watch that, but I just don't think it's sort of something that you sort of need. It's not really, it's not, I'm not that interested in it. It's like anyone has a theory, they're just capitalizing it in a sort of more, sort of official Disney Plus sort of manner, which is fine, but I just, theories are going to be flying left, right, and center, and the whole what if style universe stories is just, it's going to be what if. We just need to stick to the episodic saga 1 to 9 and beyond. That's where Star Wars heart is, and that's where it will continue to be in a lucrative but also great storytelling way. Whether the story is great or not, it still comes off movie-like, epic, and with sort of interesting story parts, good or bad. Anyway, the next question from Michael from Werribee South is, the Andor benchmark, has Andor set the bar high, so high for writing and realism that traditional alternative style Star Wars now feel disappointing by comparison? Interesting question, because personally, the type of storytelling that was in Andor was super real and super, you felt the whole sort of realism of the war conflict in where that Star Wars timeline was, especially in the second half of season 2. You really felt it, and that type of look of the Star Wars is much different to, like Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett. It's sort of, I wouldn't say the benchmark has been set high. It's just a different sort of liking. And a lot of people really liked the Andor thing, but a lot of people didn't like the Andor thing. I think just telling Star Wars again in an episodic way, keeping the actual Star Wars moving forward, is how you resolve that, because you can just create feels that is different, but still having it as a contained episode movie in an epic way. Whether you liked episode 8 or episode 4, it's just, that's the way Star Wars really is. It just needs to stick to that. No side stories, it just needs to be, and that's where it will really flourish and benefit the greatest. That's in my humble opinion. Not that I don't accept what's coming out with animation and the TV series. I accept Star Wars for what it is, as I've said many times. And but I think, Andor, I don't think it's about benchmark. It's more like it's just style. So, there was a period of time, for example, in hip hop history where, gangster rap really, took over the world, and at that time it was, a real cheesy, electro style of hip hop then, and it made that style, the electro hip hop style, look really weak compared to gangster rap. But it's just two different feels. That's all it is. That is an example. Anyway, so the next question from Mike from Werribee South. Werribee South is on the other side of Melbourne for good reason. But anyway, what is good Star Wars? Does good Star Wars require Jedi and lightsabers, or is the franchise at its finest when it focuses on boots on the ground struggle of the common person? I think it needs both. I really do think Star Wars is a visual understanding with lightsabers, and the boots on the ground struggle it goes hand in hand. That question is easily answered, is it needs both. That's the requirements of a basic canvas look and story to Star Wars. The whole boots on the ground struggle just needs to have a really, twist and turn plus emotional connection. That's what we need. Anyway, so that's the answer to that question. Now, the last question for today, which is Michael from Werribee South, is nostalgia overload. Is Lucasfilm relying too heavily on nostalgia? E.g., for example, cameos and legacy characters to carry new stories rather than building entirely original eras. Well, the whole idea of people perceiving nostalgia as just fan service is become a new thing to see and feel and know. When you see something that is in Star Wars that's familiar, it doesn't always mean it's like, oh look, remember that, remember this. It's a part of Star Wars. It's just a part of it. Like I actually think when people really go crazy about there's been something inserted so something can be recognized. I don't think the writer and the producer, if it was me, I wouldn't be doing it for that reason. Go, let's put the Millennium Falcon there to make it like, oh, look, it's Star Wars. I'm putting it in there for a reason that it needs to be there. Maybe at times that it's done that, maybe. I don't know. You'd have to ask the writers for Star Wars Lucasfilm. But definite overload. Star Wars is a real original look and sound understanding. And that look and sound understanding is going to translate through the episodes it releases, rather than TV or movie. You're always going to have that. If you see C-3PO in the background of something and he's there for a reason, well, he's there for a reason if I was writing it. But I think I don't think this nostalgia is overload. I think it's just, Star Wars is Star Wars, and that is going to be there for a particular reason. But I can't answer for what the actual writers did, for what reason they had. But me, I'm going to include something because it's in the actual story. That's what I would do, if you can understand that. Anyway, that is the last question for today. And please subscribe to this channel. The Force Always. I'm here 3-ish times a week, 3, 4, maybe sometimes 2, with the news, the views, the reviews and interviews. I'm coming from Melbourne, Australia, so it's going to be a different sort of understanding of lots of things. I love the American way, but there's definitely big differences in where Star Wars is perceived here and over there, especially for myself. I love Star Wars. That's why this is the Force Always. You're the Force Always if you keep watching. If not, well, just be the Force Always anyway. Subscribe to the channel, The Force Always. Again, like and share if you want. If you like this video, share it if you want. And until next time, my friends, keep rocking.